All right, welcome back to another episode of Nightmare Stories the Other Side. Today I welcome back Sophia Temperilli. So how have you been lately? It's been what, since February or March since we last talked?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know. It's been a crazy year. Swear it's gone by so fast, but I've been doing good. And thank you for having me back on.
Yeah, you're welcome. So since we last talked, what
Mhm.
have you been up to?
Oh, well, we've been booking a ton of great guests on the show, and working on a project. I've went and worked on a project in January of this year, so that's been keeping up a lot of my time this year is, trying to make sure everything's together and see, what I can do with my paranormal project.
So has this project that you've been working on come out yet, or is it still kind of a hush hush type of thing?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of both. So it was supposed to be more hush hush, but the location that we investigated at told the local news.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, it was written about in the local newspaper in Lenox, Massachusetts. So it is out there. However, it's not out there. It's still in the process. It just finished editing a couple months ago, and we're trying to decide what the best way to distribute it is. So it's in the kind of more end stages, possible beginning stages. Um,
All right. So besides like that project, have you done any other like investigations this year?
not so far this year. Honestly, this has been the biggest undertaking I think in my entire 18 years, I think it's been in the paranormal. So it's really taken up so much of my time. And then my show transitioned from Blog Talk Radio to Spotify. So we've kind of
Nice.
spent a good portion of this year. It's just coming up on a year we've been on Spotify, iHeart, Apple Podcasts. And so we've spent a good portion of this year really retweaking the show. Since the past 13 years prior to this, my show had been live. So it was kind of really just a year of adjustment and growth and navigating, this project that was my biggest thing I've ever done in the paranormal, and also really working on changing the format of my radio show and bringing it to the modern era, which I was long overdue for.
Right. So like this year, like who are some of the, bigger name guests you've had or lesser name guests?
Yeah, so this Saturday, actually, my guest is psychic medium Jennifer Schaefer. I've had her on for years. She's an amazing psychic medium out of Manhattan Beach, California. Her life story is actually going to be told on a TV show that's going to be coming out on Fox. So that will be really exciting. It's called Wine and Spirits. I've also, now that we're on this new format, have been able to interview international guests for the first time in like a decade. So that's been really exciting. We've had on guests from Brazil, Norway, Sweden, Mexico, Costa Rica, uh, Scotland, Britain, and I feel like Greece, New Zealand. So that's been really exciting, to just be able to have international shows. So we have a few of those shows posted in both Portuguese and English and
Oh,
Spanish
that's
and
awesome.
English, because we had a translator, so we kind of edited it so the native Spanish speakers are able to listen to it and English speakers, and same with the Portuguese.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's always nice to do the international podcast because I've done a few of those as
Mhm.
well, but it's just like trying to figure out the time difference because like, I can only do something like that on weekends because of work. So it's like, okay, it's 9 o'clock my time, what is it, for you?
Yeah, it's definitely, you have to figure out the time difference. And then, like I said, we've had shows where it was English and Spanish. So the first one we had was Costa Rican investigator, Israel Brontes, and he doesn't speak English. So we had a translator on, and that was a lot of fun. I speak a little bit of Spanish, not enough to run an entire show. So we have a version that's in Spanish where you are able to hear all of Israel's questions as he said them, and then we have it in English where you're able to hear it through the translator. And I think that that's really special just because it allows, for people from different languages and different backgrounds to really come together on the paranormal. And it was the same with the Portuguese as well, which the only word I knew was obrigado. Thank you. Courtesy of 90 Day Fiance. So
Okay.
it's definitely a little bit of a learning curve with some of it, but it's
Oh,
been
I'm
a lot of
sure.
fun just getting to really hear about, the different hauntings all over the world that I'm not familiar with, the folklores, and also, I've been asking the guests too, what have you noticed is the difference in spirits from, say, Norway versus when you're coming to America or someone else to investigate. So it's been great just getting to really take in all the cultures and their experience with the paranormal.
Yeah, because I'm kind of starting to branch out more, like look into other areas because I've done like Australia, Ireland,
Mhm.
and I think only England. Those are the only three countries I've done, but it's like it makes me want to like, try to get overseas and even investigate and explore because that would be, a whole different ball game than here in the US.
Yeah, for sure. And oh, I interviewed people from South Africa too, and what they were saying too is, it's becoming less accepted over there, and they're finding it's harder to actually book locations. People aren't really wanting to let them in, so I think it's also really helpful too, just to kind of hopefully, at least maybe in those countries that are having those issues, maybe allow them to have their voice on a bigger platform,
Yeah.
and allow them to, show that they don't have any malicious intent. They just want to speak to those individuals who have passed on and their spirits still linger.
Yeah, for sure. So I was kind of looking through your Facebook page to just kind of catch up on things you've been doing. And I can't remember if we touched on it the first time we did the podcast, but I saw you did a podcast with Patty Negri some time
Mhm.
ago. Like, what are your thoughts on her? Because, like, since we've met, yeah, since we first met, I met her and she's like, one of my favorite people to talk to.
Yeah, Patty is amazing. I mean, she's incredibly kind every time she's on the show. Oddly enough, she grew up not too far from where I live. So when you meet her, you can kind of talk about the local places, the high schools you went to and know anything. So she's just incredibly kind and very fun to talk to. It's always great to hear her stories and her background and how this started and how she said she kind of hid it from everyone and then it came out that she has these abilities. So I always think it's, great not only to talk to her, but different psychics too, because they all have similar journeys, but there's always so many differences from the age they really accepted their abilities to when they actually went out and started honing in on them. And she's just one of those people that has such great knowledge and, like you
Oh,
said,
definitely.
is incredibly down to earth and kind.
But yeah, like the first time I met her was this last April at a convention in
Mhm.
Eau Claire, and I was actually going to do a live podcast with her in person. Going into it, I was just like freaking out, anxiety, a bundle of nerves. But like when I first met her, it's like she gave me a hug like we've known each other for like ever. I'm just like, okay,
Mhm.
this will be fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great when you meet people like that too, because, they the paranormal is one of those things where not everyone you meet in your day-to-day life understands it, which is totally understandable and fine. But when you meet someone in the field that's that open and welcoming, it's nice to be able to, share your stories and also, have normal conversations. She's someone you can just talk about normal things with and the paranormal. And I always think that's great where you're able to not just talk about the paranormal, but really connect on a deeper level too.
Oh yeah, it's like, her and I text each other quite often and
Mhm.
it's not all about the paranormal. It's just like, hey, how's your day going? What have you been up to? And this past Monday, she just had a birthday and so
Mhm.
it's calling, texting and wishing her happy birthday. And we even just chatted on the phone a couple times for like an hour or so.
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing. And I feel like there's so many people like that too in the field that are just incredibly kind and welcoming. And I know there's paradrama, but I think, at the core of it, there's really so many people that just want to be in the paranormal and experience it with other people.
Yeah. Yeah, like on December 27th, we have an investigation event in my hometown,
Mhm.
an old theater, and she's actually flying up from LA to join on that.
Well, that's awesome. I know you're gonna have a lot of fun doing that, and
Yeah.
that's super cool she gets to join you for that.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of like cool. It's like, hey, I get to pick up Patty Nager from the airport and bring her down to this investigation and bring her back and you know just talk on the way down and pick her brain on more stuff and
Yeah, I met her for the first time at the OC Paracon last year. Well, the first time in person. And yeah, she's, you can just, like you said, talk to her so easily, like you've known her for years, which I had online, but it's always different when you meet someone in person.
yeah. So for you, like, who are some other interesting people that you've really connected with in your podcasts?
Well, I mean, there's so many. My mom's best friend for years was Debbie Constantino from Ghost Adventures, up until, she unfortunately passed away. So we were really close with her. Amy Goodwin was a really good family friend. Obviously, she's not so much in the paranormal anymore. uh, Jennifer Schaefer, Harvey Althouse is a medium that we're friends with. Psychic Stephanie Ann Stevens is another psychic. We know a lot of psychics. We seem to get along really well with them. Drew Babineau, I'm really good friends with. He's the Haunted Raven.
Yep.
Robert Oakes, the historian. He's an incredible historian. If anyone listening ever gets a chance to take one of his tours, I highly recommend it. Um, yeah, I mean, there's just so many people. We've met so many amazing people through the years. And I've just been really fortunate, I think, to start at such a young age and really have kind of built a family with the people in the field. And just, it's an odd thing growing up around psychics, but it's so normal. And I feel very fortunate to say that, I know so many people with these abilities that are just normal for me.
Yeah. So I've never heard the name Robert Oakes before. Where is he out of?
Yeah, so he does most of his investigate. He doesn't live in Massachusetts, but he does most of his investigations in Massachusetts, the Lenox, Pittsfield area. He used to run tours and still currently does at the Mount, which is Edith Wharton, the Gilded Age author of Ethan Frome, The Age of Innocence. He ran tours there at the Mount for many years, and now he does Herman Melville's house. He just signed a country club around there, Ventfort Hall. So he does like a lot of incredible stuff, but he's super knowledgeable and very engaging to listen to. He actually was a part of the project I was telling you about. So I
Okay.
was very lucky to get a good historian like him.
Yeah, that's always cool.
Yeah.
So I also saw that you now have a website. You want to talk about that a little bit? I haven't had a chance to look at it yet.
Yes, and that's why I'm saying the year's gone by so fast. Sometimes I can't even remember the stuff I did this year because it's all about just, like you said, reconfiguring the show and really just joining the modern age, which you would think since I'm 26 I'd be great at. I'm not. So I just had my website go live. It's sophiatemperilli.com. You can go on there, learn more about me as an investigator, my radio show, The Ghost Host Show, find links to all my social media, all of that. You can find the contact form there. And also, we will be releasing merchandise soon, t-shirts and stickers for my radio show for anyone who wants to get that. They're not up yet, but they will be soon. So it's just been really great to kind of, you know, revamp things. I got a logo made, which my show probably should have had decades ago, but when you start at 12, sometimes you just figure things out along
Yeah,
the
for
way as you
sure.
go, and then things get to a certain point, and then you look back and you're like, wow, this should have been done a long time ago, but it's all just a learning curve. Like we had t-shirts done 10 years ago. We never did more. So it's all just kind of redoing things, and that's what the website is just having kind of one spot where people can go and learn about, what I do in the field and the radio show that is going on 15 years in next June.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's it's definitely strange. When you're 12, you definitely don't think 15 years down the line.
Oh, right. It's like for Natalie, when she started in the paranormal, she was 11, and it's like seeing her growth like in the last year is just like amazing. And it's like the stuff that she's witnessed and willing to tackle and looking forward to it is
Mhm.
just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really incredible just to see people grow in the field at any age because it's, one of those things where you can start at 80 years old if you want to. I mean, there's not really like, an age limit or requirement. It's about your respect level and intent and, just being safe as you go in and seeing people develop and grow in the field and go on investigations and learn more. I think it's really just amazing to see people's connection to the paranormal and all aspects of it just really, kind of take root over time.
Yeah. And then like for her too, is just like, seeing what her limits really are and like, being able to say it's like,
Hmm.
I need to take a break or tap out. And, like this last summer, we did a big paranormal road trip where we were at Indiana State, Billy Creek, Waverly, Post Town, and Old Hospital on College Hill. And by the time we got to Post Town, it's like her and I almost left and came back home.
Hmm.
And because she was just, there was a lot going on that trip.
Hmm.
She had a past life regression session and found out some things about the spirits that's attached to her and stuff about her past life. And it just, kind of took her toll.
Yeah, it can definitely be very taxing. And that's why, I'm always telling people on radio shows, don't push yourself past your limits because that's where, problems can arise. And it's just really important to really stay in tune with yourself, on investigations if you're trying to develop your psychic ability, anything. So you don't overexert yourself. I mean, it's one of those things, it's not an exact science, and you really have to kind of go with what your body is telling you and what you're feeling emotionally. And that's really important to, you know, have the energy to keep going in the field and develop and do everything that you want to accomplish.
Yeah. And it's like, for us, like, she ended up finishing the trip and we got to Old Hospital. We didn't really do much there and just kind of hung out while the other people that were with us investigated. And then we had like one investigation in July, and then kind of happened is to take a 3 month break from things, just
Hmm.
both of us for to recharge. And
Yeah, that's extremely important. I always say, like in the paranormal, there's tons of people who can live, eat, and breathe this, but for me, I think it's especially after living in a haunted house, so important for me to just have like normal time. Just like
yeah,
not doing the paranormal, not talking about the paranormal, just playing video games or watching TV and just having time where you're just living with the living and not just focused on the dead, which that's what we love. I mean, we love the spooky and the supernatural, especially, in October, Halloween month.
yeah,
But it's so important to stay grounded in the fact so you don't kind of lose yourself in, you know, the dead.
yeah. And I think like one thing that, we kind of learned from in the first year is like, you know, uh, we did a lot in the first year where it's like, probably should have eased it back a little bit, but it's like,
Hmm.
we wanted to experience all these places and just kind of like, we got burnt out basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that definitely can happen. Like I've been to the Queen Mary so many times that like I have no problem going to the Queen Mary, but also it's not the first place that I want to run to on just like a normal day
Yeah.
because it's like, okay, I've been there, I've done that. It feels like hundreds of times, probably has been, and you want to experience something different and also maybe go to a place that's not haunted and enjoy your time with friends.
But yeah, like for us, like tomorrow night we're going to Farrar and it'll be our third time there since end of April, but it's like it's her favorite location
Hmm.
and it's just like, we got some friends going, a couple of our friends, they've never done anything. Well, they've done something paranormal, but it was like kind of low key, so they're not investigators at all. So it's like, how can we scare the crap out of them tomorrow night?
Hmm. Yeah, I really want to take my best friend slash cousin to a cemetery, just because she doesn't want to go, and I think it's funny.
Yeah, it's like I keep, I was telling my friend's wife, I'm like, well, one thing that's going to happen to him is we're going to stick him in the boiler room at Farrar
Hmm.
for half an hour by himself. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think my cousin would definitely kill me if I did that to her. But I mean, it'd be worth it. It'd be funny.
No, definitely for
But
sure.
the thing is, I get my little cousins to join in too. I'm like, Kimmy, let's go to a cemetery. And she's like, no. And then her daughters are like, yeah, mom, you need to go. And I'm like, yeah, you heard your daughters. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts like of paranormal locations that are like, in jeopardy? Like, I'm sure you're aware
Mhm.
of like Sweet Spring Sanatorium being indefinitely closed and, everything going on with the Conjuring House now. It's like, what are your thoughts on those kind of topics?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really sad to see what's going on with Penhurst. I think it's really important to preserve, sorry. Sorry, I have really bad allergies, so I like
That's
kind
all right. It's
of
that
clear my
time of
throat.
year.
Yeah, like I can't help it. But yeah, I think it's really important to preserve history and I think especially I live on the West Coast. There's so many places that have been torn down just because, a building's up in the 40s and for us now that's really old and something you want to preserve. But it probably got torn down in the 60s and so I think there's so many places that have such deep history and I understand the need for progression and all of that, but I think, destroying these iconic places doesn't really help,
No,
because it
definitely not.
is a time capsule and something that, has a lot of meaning. I know when I was looking at I think it was a change.org thing for Penhurst. So I was looking at Penhurst because there's a lot of asylums. Like I said, I live on the West Coast, so I don't know all the history of the asylums, but it closed down in 1987, according to Wikipedia, if I got that wrong. I'm not saying I'm a historian on that. But someone had said that, I don't want to see this torn down. My cousin was there in Penhurst when it was around and they died there. And I think people kind of lose fact of the point that, 1987 was not that long ago. And so
Right.
there's people living that have
But
had family members that were in these places. And so I think it's really important to keep in mind, when it seems like it was open in the 1800s, but it
yeah.
didn't close until the 80s. And so you really have living people that have ties to this and their family members, and they don't want to see something turned into a data center. And I
No,
think
I
it's
know
really
for sure.
important to, keep these places around, not just so the spirits that right now, people are acknowledging them and talking to them. If you turn into a data center, they're kind of just there. And I think, I can't speak for the spirits. Maybe they don't want to be talked to. Maybe they do. But I think that taking away history leaves so much that people don't get to learn from.
Oh, I
Um,
know.
One of the things I'm the most upset about is there's a singer called Pia Zadora, and she bought a house in Hollywood called Pickfair, which was owned by Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks. And it was, I believe, a 1920s Spanish style home. And she tore it down, said it was due to termites. And it actually, she later said that she tore it down because it was haunted.
Oh,
And I think
geez.
that is such a gross representation of, okay, it's haunted. Leave. Like, you don't need to turn down something historical. Someone else could move in there and absolutely not care. And
Right.
Mary Pickford really did so much for Hollywood. She was one of like kind of the founding people of Hollywood. And I think to destroy kind of iconic Hollywood history like that is horrible. And I think when you're talking about anywhere in the world, I think it's so important to share people's stories. And the project I was working on earlier this year, that was really kind of the basis of it, is talking about these people. I went to Edith Wharton's home, the Mount, which is not in jeopardy. It's totally fine. It's doing really well. A very beautiful location. Definitely recommend people go there. But when you're talking about, say, Edith Wharton, people talk about her novels, The Age of Innocence or Ethan Frome or anything else she's written, but people don't necessarily look into the authors themselves or their history. And I think when you look into history and these locations, you learn more about the people and their lives.
Yeah.
And sometimes their lives are more interesting than anything that they've ever written because it's real and they imbued some of their self in their work. And I think when it comes to locations, that's also there, that imprint of the people who work there and the people who were there. And I think their stories are so important. And that's one thing I really focus on in the paranormal now, more that I'm older, is the stories from the people, not just talking to the spirit.
Yeah.
It's about who they were when they were alive.
Yeah, it's like when we go into a location, it's like we always kind of do a little bit of research before it first. And then
Mhm.
like, when there, like for me being a photographer, I go in and like, take hundreds of pictures because I want to document everything because like I want to preserve it because you never know when it's going to be gone.
And I will say I do understand like there's a place that was called like a poor farm and
Yep.
it was like a hospital near me called Ranchos Los Amigos. That's a place I wanted to go, but you can't go in there. It's condemned and it's been destroyed by a fire. Now, I will say I do understand when it's places like that that really you can't do anything with. It's like you want to preserve it, but it's also putting people at jeopardy. And
Yeah.
so I understand that too, but I think when there are places that you can preserve the history and you can help it, I always think it's best to do that.
Yeah. Like we have two that are close to me. We have one about an hour and a half away. It's an old asylum that Pokegama, it's like so beyond rundown and it's like on the market to be sold, but last I heard it's gonna be made into apartments, but at least there they're not
Mhm.
tearing the building down. And then like up
Yeah.
in Duluth, Minnesota, you got No Hemming Sanatorium. That is so beyond disrepair, which is like you can see it from the interstate and like even the smokestacks leaning over and someday that's not gonna be there, but it's like so far gone. It's like you'd have to put millions to fix it.
Yeah, and then it becomes like the ship of thieves, where it's like when you
Yep.
replace every part of it, is it still the ship of thieves? Because
Yep.
every single piece has been repaired. So it's one of those things. But like the Queen Mary, I know they do as much as they can to keep it up. I think that's probably one of the harder locations to upkeep too, because you're always contending with the water and the erosion
Yeah,
that comes along with that. But it's one of the only ships like that. I think it might be the only ship like that around. I'm not too sure because I
I
don't
think
know anyone else.
so.
And you have the Art Deco in it, and you really can see the time period in which it was designed and made. And you don't have that. I went on a field trip there in high school for my art class just because of its Art Deco. Um, paintings and carpet and walls and everything. It was just to see how it was made
Yep.
and in the art that was put into it. And so I think beyond the haunted locations, I mean, you really can see, like I said, a time capsule and learn so much from it in and of itself. And I think the Queen Mary is a really great example of that too.
Exactly. And then like for us, like, this week with like seeing everything about going on with Penhurst, it's like Penhurst was like not at all on our investigation plans for next year. I'm just like, well, here I thought I was set, but now it's like, I need to get out there because you don't know how much time you have left.
Yeah. And I think that's just like really hard, because you it's a lot of upkeep and someone who runs it has to put a lot into it. So it's like, you want to save the place too, but it's hard because the person running it, they can probably realistically only do so much. So it's one of those between a rock and a hard place things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's, about the community coming together and
Yeah.
figuring out how they can help.
Yeah, and for that, like I just actually finalized our booking for next summer this morning. So it's like, okay, we're going to Penhurst now. Not that I want to drive all the way across Pennsylvania, but we're doing it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the East Coast, I feel like things are a little bit closer together. So I feel like that's maybe beneficial because in California, you can drive 7 hours, you're still in California.
Right.
Like, so it takes a pretty long time to get from where I am to Oregon or something.
Well, it's like you think about like we want to do a Nevada road trip someday, but like, fly into Vegas and then go to Virginia
Hmm.
City, but then that's still like an 8 hour drive. It's like, how is that an 8 hour drive from one end of Nevada to the other? It just like seems crazy.
Yeah, we used to drive from where I live in LA County to Virginia City, Nevada. I don't know how long it was. I feel like it was like 11-hour drive or something. It was insane. It was very long.
But yeah, it's like for us to drive out to Penhurst, it's like I think a 19-hour drive.
Oh my God.
It's like so, it'll take us 2 days just to get there. But then like on the way back, we'll probably investigate a couple other spots. But I'm just like, I'm not looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, there's so many places on the East Coast I want to go, but when I went to Massachusetts, yeah, it was like, I don't know, a 7-hour plane flight or something. Maybe it was like six, but it's so long. And then where
Yeah,
we landed, we had to fly into Boston, and then Lennox is all the way on the other side of Massachusetts. So we had to then drive all the way. It's like, yeah, that's hard. That's a long day. It's a
yeah,
very long day.
yeah. One thing I'm like starting to work on. So I'm not for sure if you're familiar with the Enfield House out in Connecticut.
Yeah, I think I've heard about it a little bit.
Yeah. So like the podcast I had this morning was with the owner of the house. Yeah, it was only supposed to be an hour podcast. 2 hours
Hmm.
and 45 minutes later, it's like we're done. But then I got another podcast coming up with his wife and daughter. So I'm kind of doing a little research on the house, the history, the backstory, all the paranormal stuff that's gone on there over the years, and kind of like doing a series on it. So I'll have like probably by the time I'm done, two, three, four videos on the location.
Yeah, I think, with locations, when you do deep dives, you can just go hours, days. I mean, you go from one owner to the next and whatever happened in between, and it's just, it's an insane amount of knowledge.
Yeah.
That's why I was very happy when I worked on a project, I had a historian, because I'm like, you, I know will get accurate information. Me, I go to Google. So I'm like, you know what you're talking about.
And it's like with that, it's like, I reached out to him first and like to get his side of the story and the knowledge since he actually lives there before I talk to investigators that have been there because you
Hmm.
might get a different side of the story. And then I'm also doing a podcast with an author who wrote a book on the place. So then it's like you might get a different side. So I want to get like all the facts and just kind of, do something a little different than I haven't done, like an investigation, but not really going to a location.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the hardest parts in the paranormal is like the research and like the after. Like people, I mean, you can sit in the dark for hours and not really pick up anything. I mean, I think people don't realize that, but the hardest part really is finding the information and making sure it's accurate. And that can be through people who've gone there before, people who worked there, people who lived there, libraries, the internet, like basically any place you can get a reference on that from. And that's very time consuming, but also very
Yeah.
hard because you have urban legends, you have like
Yeah.
facts that have been thrown down the game of telephone and so it's always really hard to kind of get to like the pieces of truth in whatever stories have been told.
But in the end, it's so worth it because, like,
Hmm.
doing these podcasts, it's like, as you know, is getting to connect with people and hearing their stories and experiences.
Yeah, I think it's amazing too, just because, when you're talking about locations, you can have a location all day and night, and that's amazing. It's great. But if you don't pass down the stories or document it, then that history's still lost. You don't
Yeah.
know what the building is if no one knows what happened there. And so that's really like the biggest part is actually being able to share the stories and know what happened there and the hidden things that maybe people didn't realize or know at the time. And I think that that's so important. And one of the biggest parts of the paranormal is really preserving that history for future generations.
Oh, definitely. And it's like, then especially like with Natalie, it's like, just keep grooming her because, I don't think she's ever going to stop doing this. So it's just like
Mhm.
preserving the history for her. Then, like, if she has kids and her kids, if they do it, and it's like I've seen so many younger kids getting into the paranormal now, which is amazing.
Yeah, I think it's just incredible over the 18 years that I've been in the field, just seeing the way that the paranormal has shifted. When I started, No offense to anyone, but it was largely older men. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but that's pretty much what it was. And I was just talking to my mom yesterday, like about how great I think it is that, you're seeing so much younger people and women in the field. And
Oh,
I
for
think
sure.
that, besides just different viewpoints and different ideas that help, progress the field or technology or any of that, um, I lived in a haunted house. That ghost only wanted to talk to women. And so when you have different people and different backgrounds, you're likely to get more responses out of the spirits because they were people once too. So they have, biases or, if it's a child spirit, maybe the woman they're talking to reminds them of their school teacher, their mom. And so it's important to kind of have people from all those different backgrounds so that, the ghosts kind of have everyone that they can talk to and feel comfortable with.
Yeah. Yeah, there was one idea that I was going to be doing next year with another individual that he had, and I was just kind of helping him out with the project, and things kind of fell through. But his idea was, take an all male team, have them in
Mhm.
one location one night, and an all female team in another location, and the next night flip them and see who gets what for locations, like the different experiences.
Yeah, and I think, that's the thing is it's amazing just the differences you get. My parents spent the night on Alcatraz. Um, and my mom she was talking to one of the ghosts and one of the doors was banging just from a go ghost talking to her because it was an all-male prison. So, the spirits there would rather talk to my mom than my dad. So it's one of those things too, it's funny to see some of the responses because you have male prisoners. They'd rather talk to my mom.
Yeah. Well, it's like when Natalie and I go to places, 90% of the time, it's like I get absolutely nothing. And it's like
Hmm.
she gets all the stuff. The only time I really seem to get anything is like if somebody's under an Estes session, I always ask the question, I go, who do you want to leave the room? Nine
Hmm.
times out of 10, they say me to get out. I'm like, all right, fair enough.
They're just trolling you at this point, probably,
Yeah.
which is exactly what I would do if I was a ghost too. I think it's like the better way to spend your time is just trolling the living.
Right. It's like I think two of my greatest experiences that I've had so far is every time I've been to Farrar in
Hmm.
Mrs. Martin room, like I always kind of stand in the corner by one of the closets. Both times I've been there, I've always had a child spirit or an adult spirit. I don't know what it is, but always tugging on the back of my sweatshirt,
Hmm.
which is like, all right, yeah, you can keep doing that. I don't mind. And then this last April, we were at Edinburgh Manor in Iowa, and it was storming out pretty good. And we're all down in the kitchen, not the kitchen area, the dining room area, and taking turns under Estes. And I think Natalie was under. Well, I went off towards the kitchen because I heard some loud banging. I'm like, well, I'm
Hmm.
gonna go check out and see what's going on. And I found out it was just rain beating on metal siding outside. But so like the kitchen area, then you got a little hallway that goes into two office areas, another little hallway that goes in the long hallway that runs between the laundry room and the dining area. And
Hmm.
I put this on Natalie's life that just off to my left, I heard her go, Dad. I'm like, Natalie, what? She didn't respond. I go, what did you want? And they go, what are you talking about? I go, I just heard Natalie say dad off to my left. And she goes, no, she did not say anything. So there was something mimicking her,
Hmm.
like where she wasn't even close to. And it just like sent chills up my spine. I'm like, holy crap, what was that?
Yeah, that's really a crazy experience to have happen.
But yeah, that was kind of a game changer. That's like, I've been doing it probably at that point just a little over a year, and that was
Hmm.
like the second biggest experience that I've ever had. So it's like,
Yeah. That's the thing in the paranormal. You never know what you're going to get. Like I said, you could go to a location and sit there for 10 hours and capture absolutely nothing and be
Yep,
talking to yourself the whole time, or you could go there and have the most life-changing experience ever. And so it's kind of just like a coin toss, you know. You you never know what you're going to get, and that's part of the fun in the paranormal is, you know, you just don't know what you're gonna get. A great EVP, something that you go, I have no idea what they're saying. Or you could see a shadow figure, hear something like that. And it's I think one of the things that keeps people so engaged and in love with the field is, just the excitement of not knowing if you're gonna capture
exactly.
something that changes your mind on what you knew about the field.
Yeah, I just saw a picture on Facebook of this team from Colorado. I think they were at the Garnett House, and I don't know if it was in the kids' room or not, but there's this rocking chair with a doll on it. And the one picture you just see the rocking chair with the doll. The
Mhm.
next picture is the rocking chair with the doll with like a child spirit sitting on it. I go to Natalie, I go, that's something I want to see, want to
Mhm.
experience because that'd just be like, that would be even more life changing to actually see an apparition.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's kind of the thing too, is when you go into a field, a lot of people want those experiences. And so, they spend years searching for it or could happen a month into investigating. And it's all just, a waiting game. Or, sometimes people never have those
Yep,
experiences. And it's, you know, figuring out what maybe can help you along the way to whatever you're looking for in the field.
yep. But yeah, I go into every investigation, you know, not expecting anything. I just want to go in
Hmm.
open minding. If something happens, it happens. If it doesn't, then
Hmm.
that's just part of it. It's like I'm not going to go away disappointed if I don't see anything.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing too, is, I think when people go to a location once and don't capture anything, they immediately say like it's not haunted. But it's one of those things where you sometimes have to just go back and try again. Because honestly, a lot of these ghosts probably get a little bit tired talking to, investigators all
Oh,
day and
every
night.
day,
They're
every
probably
night.
just like,
Yeah,
you know what, I'm not even dealing with you today. So if you try again a week later, they might actually talk to you. Because
yeah.
they have off days too, where they're just like, no, I'm not even engaging right now.
But like this last June, we went to Poasttown Elementary, and so far in my year and a half doing this, that has been my favorite investigation to date. The stuff that happened there that night was like insane, and it's like I don't know if I ever want to go back just because it was that good because I don't want to go
Hmm.
back and then like, you know, have nothing happen. But it's like, do I go back or don't I go back? It's like, it's just that it was that good of an experience.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing too, a lot of people don't realize, but there's a lot of skeptics in the field,
Oh
because
yeah.
they want those experiences and they want to go into this place and have their mind change. And so it's something where, people who have those experiences, it's so good that they feel like nothing's ever going to top it. Or, you have a skeptic that goes in there wanting to just be proved wrong. And I think that's the thing is it's all about, the belief in the paranormal or, wanting to believe in it. And that goes with all aspects of the field, aliens, cryptozoology, ghosts, anything.
Yeah, the one thing that happened to me that stood out, of course, I wasn't recording. We were just hanging out in the gym talking, and I heard something down this hallway off the gym. So I just went to check it out. I can't remember if I had a flashlight or not, but there was something running down the hall at me, and it was just like, I don't know. I just like it scared the hell out of me, but it's like
Yeah.
wasn't enough where I'm like leaving the place. But it's just like all the hair on my arm stood up, and I'm like, oh my God, what is coming at me? And it's like, you guys need to get over here now.
Yeah, my mom and cousin had something similar on the Queen Mary near door 13. There's an escalator, and they were just sitting on the escalator, and there was no one around. And they felt like someone was behind them and like coming at them. They both ran off the escalator at the same time from sitting there because didn't even talk to each other. Both felt that unnerved that they're like, okay, we're not gonna sit here while something's running at us. So I think it's always unique because my dad and I were standing, so we didn't even have that experience. And so it's always interesting, I think, too, when people have those shared experiences of like, hey, I gotta get out of here, or oh my God, did you see that too?
Yeah. So one last thing I have is, so for the rest of, this year going into next year, what do you have coming up or planned?
Yeah, so for the rest of this year, I'm going to continue working on my project. Like I said, we'll have the merch coming out soon-ish on sophiatemperilli.com. We're going to have more incredible guests, more international guests, which I'm really excited for. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Because I did one big investigation this year, but it was God, 3 years in the making to put this project together and go and investigate. So that one kind of took up like the entire year on everything. But I look forward to next year and getting to plan more things and know, kind of have everything settled down from reworking the show and, seeing where this project takes me.
All right. Well, I look forward to seeing the project when it comes to completion and, you know, keep up, getting all the good guests for podcasting. And I'll put the links for your podcast and your website in the description here, and so you can get more views.
Yeah, and everyone, you can check it out. The Ghost Host Show on Spotify. We release new episodes every Saturday at 12 p.m. You can also listen on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, looks like Podbean as well, because Spotify is adding more stuff. You can check me out on Twitter at Sophia Temperilli with one L and at Ghost Host Show. You can like the Ghost Host Sophia Temperilli on Facebook and stay up to date. Instagram at Sophia Temperilli. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And make sure to check out sophiatemperilli.com if you kind of want to see everything all at once.
All right. Well, I thank you again for taking some time and joining me today, and we will chat again sometime soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having
All
me
right.
back
Thank
on.
you. All right. You have a great rest of your day.
Thanks.